Welcome to Slade TV. We are back with another market watch, and it's been a couple of months since the last one, and like a lot has changed actually. It's kind of crazy how you can't take like breaks from this, or else the market really changes. And I remember I had concerns about kind of like the lasting impacts of reprints and you know the new sets coming out and PRB basically reprinting a bunch of cards. And it's kind of weird because the opposite happened, where even though they made more product, it ended up actually not being enough. And I'm guessing a lot of new players are joining the game as well, which kind of leads to supply and demand issues. And, while the high end cards have dropped, which is good, I guess, in a sense, the game is actually becoming. All right. So I like to play like bling decks. I like to kind of have alt arts in my deck. So sometimes when I look at the prices of cards in general, I don't even look at the regular cards, which is why I'm like, wow, things are getting really expensive. Basically, virtually every alt art has gone up for the most part, unless it's like absolutely butt. So, I mean, let's start with just getting into the market watch, and I guess a good place to start for me is always just going from high to low. So let's just go through some of the cards quickly and let's just see where things are at, especially because it's nice for me to look at things after being gone for a while. So, manga Luffy, at one point, this was a $5,000 card. It's kind of sitting at around 2,600, which is good. I think that's a fair price. We've got this new promotional Luffy, Rocket Luffy cereal, and about 2,200. It's a little steep for this. I don't see the shanks here. It probably went down. This is basically the new chase card, right? This is the big one. 3,500 for, I guess, what you can call the highest rarity slash sought after card in the game. It's still a lot of money. PRB cards are a little interesting, honestly. If you're investing 1,500 in a manga Luffy, unless you're buying it strictly to play and you want to like kind of just flex in your deck, it doesn't really make any sense to go after the PRB one because long term the value is always going to be in the original one. So that's kind of like the bittersweet part about, the reprint set. And this card has kind of just solidified its value, this signature Oda Luffy. Uh, it sat at about 1,700 a while back when I was first looking a couple months ago, but now it's kind of like 1,300 to 1,500 is a safe price range. You can say it's going to stay here for a long time. And in my personal opinion, this card is severely undervalued, especially because they still haven't released a signature set yet, another signature card yet. So that's kind of why I think this is a sleeper card. And maybe in a couple years, let's say, for example, they don't, make more signature series cards, this is probably going to be like one of the most highest valued cards. And this is also the new manga Luffy. I actually think, surprisingly, that this art is a lot cooler than the Gear 5, just because I feel like this should have been the first manga Luffy, and then the Gear 5 one should have been the one that they released now. But either way, a really nice card. I probably personally am going to be staying away from high end for a little while just because it's a lot of money to throw into just something you display. Like me personally, my personal collection, I have a PSA 10 manga Nami, and she's gone up like crazy since I bought her. She was like in the 300s when I bought her, got her graded. And so that's essentially like doubled almost like 2.5. And I have a boa, so PSA 10. So I'm probably just for now going to stick to collecting the waifus and try to limit my collection, because the problem I had before was you're trying to get everything and the game is just increasing and making product like too fast for you to keep up. So I think it's good. This is just general collecting advice. If you're personally collecting, I think you should stick to maybe the one character or one type of character that you kind of have an affinity to, and you should just focus on that collection versus like trying to have everything, right? Of course, if you have the money or it's your passion, whatever, go for it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying like this is what's helped me kind of like focus on collecting and not have it get out of hand, because you if you want to collect everything, right, you're basically just going to it's very difficult to do it all. This card, I actually have no idea why it's this expensive. Maybe it's because there's just one person selling it, so he figured, you know, let me get the most for this. But I guess 475, 450-ish is like the actual sale price. So we'll go by that. This is a really nice card, by the way. It's just doesn't make a lot of sense as to why a winter card is this expensive, except for the fact that they probably just didn't make a lot and it was for a limited event. This card will probably never be back if it was just for a New Year event. So might be a safe investment. I think you can lean towards, if you want to buy cards for like investment purposes, it might be safer to go to event based cards, because then they can't really make that same card again. For example, this Yamato's kind of been at this value forever, right? Like she was like a little bit overpriced at the start because only a couple people had this card at the point. So when you don't really know the value, people will pay a lot more. But then she kind of has just, solidified at this price point. Let's go on to some more lower priced cards. This is just everything I consider in the middle. I'll just talk about like the cards that I personally think are way overpriced, and this is one of them. And I'm also partially saying this because I missed out on an opportunity to get it. So, probably could have snagged this for about $100 when it came out, and she seems to be sitting quite comfortably at this price point. There's seems to be some sale data to kind of show that it's actually had a lot of sales in this price point, from mid twos to threes, and everything sitting is kind of in that same sphere. I would honestly say TCG is pretty good with their return policies. It doesn't really hurt to give these guys a shot instead of like maybe paying an extra 30-40 bucks for a verified seller, just because this guy probably just got into the game and he sees that this card is expensive, so he wants to just sell it. That's usually like what those new accounts are. So, and worst case scenario, TCG is pretty good with giving you your bread back. He's kind of been pretty much sitting at this price for almost like a year or something. Still meta relevant. I think probably the best leader out of OP01, just because he's always been usable and still is to this day, and like quite literally one of the best decks you can play. So we got this championship pudding. She's dropped a lot. This is also a top 64 card that they were giving away for up until recently. So there are definitely a lot of these in circulation just due to the amount of events that happened, and it's also includes Europe and stuff, right? Like people kind of sell them from there here. So that drives the price down as well, because it just limits what people are willing to pay. Nami leader, she's kind of been at this price for a while. I could see her possibly going up just because we're getting a new Nami leader in the summer. So this one will be like the older one. Sometimes I've noticed when there's an original version and a newer version, I know it's not the same deck, but it's a Nami leader. So usually the older version will retain more value. This was a surprising card that has gone up. Not surprising really, but I think I snagged two of these for 200 a couple months ago, and now one is that price. And I sold one, and now I kind of regret it. I kind of just wish I held on to this card because it's just really nice. It's not a card you mind having multiples of, so I probably shouldn't have let my extra copy go. And this Nami's basically the OG first Nami parallel alt art. And I'm surprised this card doesn't go for more just because the SP Nami is just like so insane. And I think this card is more aesthetically pleasing. Of course, I think even usability wise, this is a searcher and she's, well, maybe a staple for the entire yellow color. So, the price kind of makes sense. I'm not even gonna, SPs are it's a weird game with SPs because I think I saw it happening around the time I got back into One Piece, maybe early December. I was able to snag a bunch of SPs for decent prices, and I kind of saw that tide shift where people were starting to buy these out and they were getting more and more expensive. So, for example, I had scooped the Charlotte Pudding SP and the Tashigi SP around the time that I got back into it because I'm just looking through cards and seeing like what I need in my personal collection that I've missed out on. So I got both of those for about $35, and then I was scheming on the Bonnie SP, and the Bonnie SP was around like $60, 65, and I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna buy this soon. And I saw that in between that week that I was like, let me get this, every single SP started getting bought out. And I had a chance to get the Onami SP a while back for like $80, didn't do it. So I kind of saw that tide shift where people started like buying this out because at the end of the day, if you just go by the math, right, in every case, 12 boxes, you get 3 or 4 SPs. And then there's a lot of SPs that people don't want as well, i.e., like the non waifu SPs or the ones that you can't really play. Like, for example, right, if you buy a case of OP09, out of your 3 or 4 SPs, you might get like 2 Blackbeards and like a Shanks, and they're like 40, like $60, $70 cards. Or you can get like these kaleidoscope ones. I personally like this kaleidoscope aesthetic is, really one of my favorites, and I think they're gonna keep doing it every set or every other set. So, I'm actually surprised I was able to scoop this one. Shout out my boy Med. He pulled it, and I was able to scoop it off him like around release. So I got it for like $120. But she's surprisingly not went up too much. She had like a period where she was in the 200s, but that price didn't like really stick. Because Boa is like always going to be the runner up to Nami. The Nami cards are the ones that are always going to shoot up and stay up. And again, I'm like very surprised that this card is the price that it is, just because of the SP Nami from '08, right? Like it's that card. I think I said it was just overpriced. This should be the price range for all the SPs. This SP Onami, I need to scoop one of these ASAP. I kind of just it's just slightly above the price that I think it's worth. I think this card is like like 130. I would say 130 is like a kind of like a comfortable number for that card. And then this Yamato is like about $80 a couple months ago. There's been a boom, and the thing is, I'm not sure if it's just pure market manipulation where all the cards are purposely being bought out by a group of people and they're holding them, or if just maybe stores or people who buy cards in order to sell them are just kind of racking up on the cards that are obviously very low pull rates, because once that happens, if you can't find the card anywhere and you really want it, eventually you're just going to pay the price for it, right? Like, for example, if you really want 4 SP Onamis in your deck, or you just want one to collect, and you go to TCG Player and this is the price you see, it's what you're gonna pay, right? Especially if you come into it from like a newer player or something like that. So it could be that everything just got bought out because Nationals was happening. And then I've noticed like these months, like these holiday months, December going into like the winter, for some reason it just One Piece market gets a little bullish during this time. So this was the card. I ended up paying 100 flat for this because I waited a little too long, and then like she ended up jumping up to like 150 at some point. I remember I was seeing prices, but she's kind of stabilized, and this is probably the price that she's gonna stay at for a little while. I would say I don't see her really going down. What else we got? Okay, this is bonkers right here. This was 244 last night. I think it's obvious that that price wasn't gonna stick. Did someone buy it? Highly doubt it. View more data. Yeah, no one bought it. So this this right here is a solid $80 card. This card should not be more than 80 bucks because Zoro Joro has pretty much always been a meta card. And when he first came out, he was like kind of selling for like at the low 50, then he sat at like 80 to 90. But like I said, right, supply and demand. Now there isn't too many of them on the internet, so these guys can kind of like ask whatever they want, and it is what it is. You can't like really get mad at it because no one else is selling it. And then if someone is selling it in person from their binder or on a Facebook marketplace or something, then this price is the guideline. So everyone, the price of the card just goes up because no one's really there's not as many to go around. Dragon, this is what I call like this is a fair price. I think for Dragon, he's also a meta card, and he's pretty much a red staple at this point. This is a safe pickup too. If you wanted a playset, I think this would be like a good time because he kind of started off in the like around the same price, and then at his lowest, like what, $70. Yeah, I would say that's a good time to scoop him. This Zoro, I like totally regretted selling it when I did, and I knew it was gonna go back up. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the game in general, and I recently was able to scoop the playset that I had back up from my boy. Shout out Andy. At the same time, like I sold a lot of playsets of like alts, and I just kind of regretted it immediately because I'm like noticing the trend that the prices of these cards only goes up. So if you sell something with the mindset that you might be able to get it back later, you might, but from what I've noticed a couple times now, like doing this cycle, it's always going to be at a more expensive price. This Yamato, like 86 bucks, I guess you could say. A couple months ago, this was like a $50 card. A couple months ago, this was like, holy crap. This was like, I think I got this card for $30 at like a TCG convention. So this price is like actually pretty insane. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said, people are just buying out SPs. I got this card for like 35 bucks, like an 80 buck card now. Um, yeah, I mean, what can I say? The Market Watch conclusion is that everything is up. One Piece is up, right? This Hiyori was not too expensive. What did they announce recently? It was a new deck. It's probably the Nami. Uh, so this card is like a yellow staple. Anything that's a yellow staple just went up. I also think in general yellow is just probably the most newcomer friendly color, and if you want to kind of turn your brain off and play, yellow's the way to go. And for a lot of people, if you're just kind of looking to win, this is the direction you're going to take. And it seems to be a lot of yellow support going around. This card is like, yeah, this treasure Luffy is like really nice. It's kind of crazy too because this is the first treasure rare to be this expensive consistently. And I guess up until this point, the other two weren't like really the most playable cards. So I guess, I also like a couple months back said this was like my favorite card. Still the case. He did drop a little bit, went up a little bit, and now he's kind of like sitting at this price point. I think this card is basically one purple, like really meta deck that's running things away from just being like $150, $200 card. But right now, it's a fair price. It's a great time to pick up a playset, if you ask me. So, I mean, let's not. I don't want to have this. I don't want to have this get too long. 20 minutes is usually kind of my cap because you don't want to waste. You don't want to like spend too much time. I don't know if you guys are even listening at this point, but if you are, shout out to you. And I'm gonna try to get back into it. I think my next market watch, I'm probably gonna just focus on the actual meta cards that have gone up. And like, this Flampe would be one of them. This was like a $30 card a couple weeks ago. Went up to about 70. It quite didn't like stick there just because, people weren't like really willing to pay for it. But I think that this price is probably where like the flomp is gonna like settle down at. But yeah, I mean, let me know what other kind of like content you guys are like into. I'm thinking about I kind of play with my boys here and there. I'm thinking about just starting to record some games. So we're probably gonna get that type of content up and running. I've got the shorts. I've been, posting YouTube shorts. So let's try to get back into this. Let's be a little bit more consistent. And, the game is growing, which kind of is very exciting. So there's a lot to do here. So, yeah, I mean, thanks for watching if you watched up to this point, and I'll catch you on the next one.